Okay, it's ball joint time. Now I don't have the new parts yet. Apparently FedEx is having some problems. So we don't have new parts. So I'll even want to show you how to take ball joints off. This is pretty typical of most cars that you'll work on with rack and peanut steering. So you're going to find a couple of things. You got, actually we're looking at the wrong one. This is actually the tie rod end. This is the lower ball joint. I almost took the tie rod end off because I'm not thinking clearly. Let's see if we can, I can't really get a good view of it. Maybe if we turn the steering the other way. Like that. Get a better view. There. Light over here. There we go. Okay, yeah, there we go. So this is our lower ball joint. This car does not need ball joints. We are replacing them because why not? No, really. It's one of those, well, I've gone this far. The upper ball joint, now this is a double wishbone style suspension, so you won't typically find an upper ball joint in your family sedan. Generally, you're going to have a McPherson strut system where the entire strut rotates and there's a bearing up on top as part of the strut mount. But on this car, which has a much sportier suspension than your average Toyota Camry, it has both upper and lower ball joints. The upper ball joints, just like the lower ones, are fine as well. On this car, most people are going to replace the entire upper control arm. We're not going to do any of that. We're just going to do the lowers because they're easy to get to, and it's just like, why not? They're not that expensive, and we're just going to change them. So you've got this right here. This is called a castle nut. It looks like a castle turret or a tower, and that's held in place by a cotter pin. Now, generally, we're not going to be reusing that cotter pin, but they can be reused depending on how many times they've been removed. But I don't think we're going to be reusing it. I think the new ball joint will come with a cotter pin. So, in full disclosure, I've only replaced one set of lower ball joints in my life, and it was on my 2010 Hyundai Elantra. And I did them, again, as a while I was in there deal, because I had to replace the control arm bushings, and I figured, well, why not just change it? These cotter pins, you got to squeeze them down to their flat shape and push them through like that. Take your curved pliers, pull them right out. Sometimes they can be removed a little easier than others. Yeah. So I've read that the Miata's front suspension components are generally very robust. And their ball joints have been known to last many years. Let me see if I can grab it a little better. I want to move you guys back a bit. Oh, Jesus. And it doesn't want to come out. We'll get it out. Get something a little bit more robust. The purpose of the castle pin or castle nut is to prevent the assembly from ever coming loose, which could be a catastrophic and often deadly failure if that were ever to happen. thing is, you want to replace your lower, well, all right, let me back up a bit. The lower ball joint on this car carries much more load than the upper ball joint, based on how the suspension is built. So the upper wishbone, it provides a very important service. It keeps the spindle from flopping over. Okay, it doesn't really carry much weight, and it doesn't connect to the shock assembly or shock spring assembly coilover. But the lower ball joint does. The lower ball joint provides the upward force. It supports the entire assembly through upward forces. Basically, the entire weight of the car is on this ball joint. Well, 1/4 of the weight of the car, and depending on where you're, if you're cornering and how hard, it can support quite a bit of weight. So, does that make sense? Okay. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to break this ball joint free from the spindle. And for that, we have this, a pickle fork. But what we want to do is you want to loosen up this castle nut first. This is where things can get pretty dicey because sometimes these don't want to break free. And they want to end up spinning the entire ball joint. Let's hope that doesn't happen. So what we're going to do, we're going to apply a little bit of Mechanics Cologne, also known as PB Blaster. That is what I grabbed, right? Yeah. We're going to let that soak a little bit. I'm going to get the other one soaked too. You don't want that to start spinning the entire ball joint. That just gets really nasty when that happens, and it happens a lot. So I like to get these with air tools, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that given the angle it's at. No, that's not going to really happen for me. So we're going to have to get maybe a breaker bar or something. This is the most challenging part of removing a ball joint. Actually, I take that back. I did the ball joints on my sister's 1999 Maxima. It was a while ago. And man, that car was a colossal piece of shit, I tell you what. It really was. Oh my god. I hated that car. So get this, my parents decided to give my sister my dad's old Maxima. And now I never had I actually had to buy my own cars, nobody gave me a car. So, anyway, I had to buy my first car. They gave her hers. But anyway, then I had the added insult to injury. I had to fix the car for her when it broke. And it broke often. I've had to do brakes, ball joints, thermostat. That's okay. It's all good fun. I'd like to bring that up just because, I don't know. Alright. How am I going to get this? What's my angle of attack going to be? I can't rattle gun it free for obvious reasons. I know. Yeah, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to beat it into submission. Okay, here we go. Redneck impact gun. Oh. Well, that wasn't so bad. Now let's just hope the whole ball joint isn't spinning. Oh no, we're good. We're good. So I want to get this castle nut free. Okay, like that. Then I'm going to take my pickle fork. And I think we have to get it from the other side. Now I want to point something out here for those of you budding at-home mechanics. This is not a place to save money. If you're looking to save money on a job, on your car, you can put cheap brake pads, you can put cheap rotors. Do not go with cheap ball joints, because they will fail earlier than you expect, and they can fail at the worst time. For me, when I bought or ordered the ball joints for this car, I actually went with original equipment. I went with a dealer part rather than an AutoZone part. Why? Because going cheap on this part could lead to my death. It doesn't want to go, huh? No. She doesn't want to move. All right. Yeah, she don't want to move. Well, that happens sometimes. I don't have a lot of room here to work. Shit. Let's try it again. Let's try to get a better angle on it. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay, step 2. We're going to want to take the bolts out that hold it in place. There's one here and one here. Now, I had already loosened these bolts previously. Here's my, but I'm dead serious, guys. Don't go to your local Advanced or whatever chain auto parts store you have near you and buy, you know, the cheapest things you can find, because that is not going to end well for you, unless you're selling the car. Unless you're selling the car, and you don't care about the person buying it. I say that because we all know, we've all done it. You know, you're just trying to get rid of your old clunker, and it's going to fail inspection. And you want it to pass inspection because you don't want the next person who buys that car to burn your house down. It's easier with air tools. Okay. We're going to just get this one off here. I know. Been there myself. That just makes the job a little snappier. This guy right here, this is $10 at Harbor Freight. If you're doing ball joints, you're going to need one. Definitely. Okay, we keep our hardware together. There we go. Put it in the box. I can't get this gun in here, can I? No, I can't do that. So I'm going to have to use the old-fashioned socket on a stick. I find that the Miata is uniquely easy to work on. Really, nothing on this car has been a fantastic challenge. It's actually been pretty smooth and easy, almost too easy. It's just a fun car to work on. All right. But no, seriously, if you're trying to get suspension parts, I've been talking to a few people. Even the guys at the auto parts store, and they're brutally honest, and they'll tell you. My local auto parts store, which is it's a chain, I won't say which one, but they were telling me that you can't even trust Moog anymore. Moog used to be the de facto, that was the go-to company for front-end parts. And I know when my dad was my age, you know, Moog was it. It was Moog or nothing. And yep, there we go. Here's our ball joint. This is our factory original. Now I ripped. Look at this. I ripped the joint with my pickle fork. I ripped the boot. Now this joint is no good. Once you rip that boot, but honestly, this is still a good joint. There's nothing wrong with this joint. I'm replacing it out of an abundance of why not. So this tells me that the upper ball joints, which don't really support any weight at all, they're fine. There's no need to change these. But I can't put it back now because I ripped the boot. But just to give you an idea as to how high quality these OEM joints really are, look at the rubber. It hasn't even degraded. Aside from the damage I just caused, there's no damage to this. There's no degradation at all to this. The grease inside is still nice and amber colored. It's not black. There's a way to test these joints, and you can only do it when they're off the car. Kind of a catch-22 if you ask me. But you have to, you put a torque wrench or something on this and you twist it. And if the ball joint yields under too low of a torque, then the joint is bad. At least that's what the book says. But this joint is totally fine. I'm replacing these for no reason whatsoever. But what I'm not doing is I'm not putting lower quality joints back into the car, like Moog or what's the other one? Mevotech, or some weird brand from China. I'm putting Japanese parts back in, original factory parts. So I don't feel so bad about it. And I'm telling you right now, oh wow, this is made by Knock, Freudenberg Knock. That's who made this this rubber. But honestly, though, I'm putting original stuff back in, and I'll never, as long as I own this car, as long as I'm alive, I'll never have to change them again. Kind of a bonus of being overzealous, I guess. But no, these are good. I've heard so many horror stories on the forums about guys putting in Moog or whatever they have at Rock Auto and Parts Geek that's not factory parts, and they just fail. They're made out of butter. So that's how you remove a ball joint, by the way. And if I was able to freely turn this, then yeah, this joint would be totally bad. If this turned freely, it does not. In fact, it's not going back in the car anyway. It has plenty of torque left. This joint has another 60,000 miles left in it. It only has 64,000 on it now. I'd say this could easily go maybe 170,000 miles or so, given the rate of wear. 30 years old or 27 years old, and it's a good part. She was a good ball joint. Go figure. Anyway, now I got to do the other side. But I'm trying to get as much work done as I can while I'm still waiting for parts. And look at how nice and clean that is. There's no rust on it. Yeah, this upper ball joint, I can tell right now, it's good to go. And here I was going to replace the control arms and everything. totally not necessary. Totally unnecessary. So I'm glad I didn't buy those parts. I canceled the order before they even left the dock. So, because I was going to change the control arms. I mentioned this before. No, I'm glad I made the decision I made. We're going to keep what we have. I might have to put some work into that steering rack, though. It got a bit of a leak. I'm sure you guys saw that in the last video. It looks like the steering rack is leaking. But what I'm not noticing is any loss in fluid, so I'm not going to go nuts putting a steering rack on. But look at how easy it is to get to. You can do the steering rack on this car in about an hour. It's incredibly, stupidly easy to do. Yeah, it's right there. Easy to access. Don't even have to take anything apart. Just, yeah. I could do it in 30 minutes right now. Now that I've got everything apart, 30 minutes I can have it out and a new one in. Probably. I'm exaggerating a little bit. All right, time to do the other side. We'll take a look. Yeah, let's do it again. Let's see how easy the other side was. Let me rephrase that. Let's see how easy the other side is. We haven't done it yet. Okay. Let me get the stuff set up. So this car was produced in December of '93. And I remember where I was December '93. I remember that Christmas very well in the following new year. I really do. Yep, '93. That was the year I got my very first cassette player. No, really. It was that Christmas. I got a cassette player. I got an erector set. And I spent that Christmas, which was seemed like an unusually long vacation holiday for us. But I just started building stuff out of little metal pieces, the erector set. Listening to some old cassette tapes that my parents, well, they weren't old then, but I got into my parents' stash of cassette tapes, and I was listening to stuff like Boston, and my parents really liked them. What else did I have? Yeah, Boston, and Led Zeppelin, and all those awesome bands of the time. But anyway, I remember that Christmas, and that was when this car was built. I have the wrong socket on here. I do. I do. But Kurt Cobain was still alive when this car was made. I might not need the hammer on this one. Nope. Look at that. Just okay. Now I have another. Look at this. Look at this. 26-year-old car. I can just like that. No big deal. What? What are you talking about? Isn't that how it's supposed to be? Jesus Christ. What the hell? This car, man. Alright. Like what? It's supposed to be hard? What are you talking about? Alright, let's get it with a pickle fork. Normally you keep the nut on, by the way. I forgot to follow my own rule. Okay. Here comes Mr. Impact. I don't want to impact it through that. I want to use the... There we go. Okay. Let's get our wrench. This side should be just as good or bad as the other side. I'm going to move you out of the way because you're in my way. Sorry. Where's the spindle? There it is. Okay. Let me get my head in there. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Okay, off we go. Impacts make it so much easier, guys. There we go. Now I can't get the impact inside that cavity because there's no room. So, use a ratchet. Let go of my socket, you bitch! Now this one's a bit rough. The other side I actually had already taken off. So, this one's a little more challenging. Folks, don't beat your ratchets with hammers. Really don't do that. You shouldn't do that. Probably not a great way to... Yeah, hold on. Let me, I have a breaker bar for this. I'm going to use that instead. I didn't bring it with me. Alright, got a breaker bar. I'm going to pull it from this side. See if we can get it positioned on the nut so I can do that. Yes. Okay. What the hell? Let's go that way with it. If I had a proper swivel, impact swivel, I would be able to muscle it out with the impact, but let's see what we can do. Okay guys, who here wants to see me break a tool? Let's see if this is enough of a swivel for it. That might do. How about this side? Even better. Okay, so this is what I'm up against. So what we got. This is not the right thing to do. I've got an extension. Now this is a 3/8 drive socket to a 3/8 extension to a 3/8 extension, a swivel extension to a 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter. None of this is rated for impact. Just want to make sure you know. Okay. So what's going to happen here, either it breaks it free. Now the other side wasn't that bad. The reason this bolt is so hard to get to, or is so difficult, is because of where it is. It's inside the control arm. So any water, moisture, sand, salt that gets into there, here we go. Alright, I gotta fill the air compressor. Really now? can do. To be creative here. I'm going to show you why that was a bad idea, but it worked. Work. So, let's try it now. I think I cracked it free. Well, I'm not having much luck with this one. I'm not sure why. Not really sure what the hell's going on with this one. Let's try not to push the car over. Wow. Well, it moved. I think I'm going to break the head off of it, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think I'm going to break the bolt. That's how bad it is. This one's rusted on. I don't want to have my hands in there, you know. Yeah, it's moving. Yeah, it's moving. For sure. Broke it right off. Okay. There it is. Here's our ball joint. Yep, just as tight as the other one, but we broke the bolt. See? I couldn't get any penetrating oil in there because it's in a blind spot. These things happen. So let's take a look at the design of a ball joint and what makes it so special. So as I stated earlier, the lower ball joint in the front end of your car with, you know, whether it be wishbone suspension or a McPherson strut suspension, this ball joint, it matters a lot. And what it's really doing, at least in the case of a wishbone suspension like this one, is it is carrying the entire load of the car, all the weight, the engine, the transmission, and any weight, well, basically 1/4 of the vehicle's total gross weight is on this joint, basically this nut. If this nut were to, I don't know, crack in half, what would happen is the entire front end of the car, or the entire, whichever corner it is, the suspension will just collapse, and the wheel and spindle and everything, brakes and all, will end up getting kicked to the side and wedged under the car, which could cause a very serious accident. I mean, use your imagination. The possibilities are endless. Which is why manufacturers have specified that this pin right here be retained with a castle nut. and a cotter pin to lock it in place. Basically, you torque it down to a specified torque, and then you crank it a little bit further just to get one of these slots to line up with the hole that goes right through the threaded rod. When these ball joints wear out, they can separate unexpectedly, and usually at the worst times. The steel ball that is, I forget how they put these together. I think it's actually I think it's assembled and then capped or something like that. I should watch a video on how these are made, but what happens is over time, the grease will leak out of this joint and begin to rust internally. Water gets in. Salt water gets in there when you're driving in the winter on a salty road. And eventually they rust and they wear out. And when that occurs, or they just wear out from normal use. And when that occurs, the joint becomes loose. And it's one of the things that they check when you do an annual inspection, at least in this state here in New Hampshire. What they're going to do is they're going to put the car up on a lifter, they're going to shake the wheel, and they're going to look for any play in that ball joint, or the upper ball joint, for that matter. And that's why these often get replaced, at least every, maybe 100 to 150,000 miles is about how long they usually seem to last, at least in my case. But there's a lot riding on these joints, and when you replace them, you do not want to go cheap. This is not, and I said this earlier, this is not an opportunity to save a few bucks if you're doing work to your car. Go ahead and put the cheap brakes on, because they have minimum standards that they have to at least comply to. But ball joints, it seems like there's a lot of unscrupulous manufacturers, most of them overseas in China, selling cheap, low-quality ball joints to unsuspecting consumers. It's a very important component of your front-end suspension. It could save your life. It could end your life if it fails. I know several people that have had these joints fail, and interestingly enough, it always seems to happen miraculously at a good point in time. My mom, we had a green Mercury Villager minivan. It was a Ford Nissan joint venture, and it was actually a cool little van. But we had one. My parents bought it. It was practically new when they got it. It had like 12,000 miles on it back in 1997. It was a 96 model. But by 2004, it was getting a little tired, and it was approaching 100,000 miles, and my mom had brought my sister to visit my grandmother about 50 miles away from where we lived. And she pulled into a gas station, and the driver's side front ball joint just let go, and the car wouldn't move. Just prior to that, she was on a 55-mile-an-hour road, an undivided highway, if you will. And if it fails, it could pull the car into the opposing lane, depending on the situation. She got lucky. One of my best friends in high school, he drove a purple Ford Escort station wagon, 1994 purple Escort wagon, and he was driving his little brother to the store or something like that, and he pulled into a gas station, and his lower, I think it was a passenger side ball joint, just let go. And my father, he had a 2008 Ford F-150. Actually, he just got rid of this truck, but just over the summer, he was hauling my parents have a camper, and he was hauling it with the truck, and up through the countryside, and nice good sized camper, under load. Had my mom and I think my nephew was with him, my little nephew, and he towed the camper from their house to the campground, probably 60, 70 miles away, and then he towed the camper back to the house. And as he was maneuvering the camper in the yard, driver's side ball joint let go. Front end of the truck just collapsed. You talk about luck. Those are all very lucky examples, but these can fail on the highway at 85 miles an hour. They can fail at the worst possible time. What was the... what's interesting is all, like, Mazda, Ford, Mercury, what was the other one? Nissan. All of these vehicles have one link, and that's Ford. I figured I'd point that out. Any hoozles. So, important to spend the extra cash if you can. Unless you're trading in the car or you're selling it. In which case, they're just going to look with a flashlight and see new ball joints. They don't care that they're made out of butter from China. But really, though, if you're going to save a few bucks, there are other places to do it, and that's not one of them. So I went with OEM ball joints. I ordered them from a local Mazda dealer, and they should be here. They had to be ordered, and they'll be here any day now. The other thing is that bolt that broke. This is another thing. This is a flange bolt, and number 8 flange bolt. Even if my local hardware store sells this bolt, I'm not going to buy it from there. Why? It's a number 8 is a number 8, right? Wrong. These bolts are made to exacting standards by the vehicle manufacturer. These are made to standards. In fact, they probably have ISO certification over at the bolt plant, which means that they are under scrutiny for everything they do. That means the metal content, the metallurgy of the bolt has to be a certain standard. All the number 8 means, if you go to Lowe's, you go to Ace Hardware, you're going to probably find a very similar bolt to this. It'll say number 8, it'll say grade 8, and it'll be the right thread pitch, the right length. It might even be a flange bolt. Maybe look just like this one. But here's the thing. Those bolts are not made to the same standards. It may not genuinely be a number 8 bolt. They may have maybe tested one in the entire production line for the year, and it has the right yield strength. Let's ship it out. These bolts are made better than those bolts, and they're designed for this application. Well, not specifically this bolt. Here's a funny thing. I looked up the part number for this bolt, and it also fits Ford vehicles as well. No surprise there. And I bet you this ball joint also fits a Ford product as well. We do know that this is the same ball joint from 1990 to 2005. So, hey, they don't break it if it ain't broken, right? Or don't fix it if it ain't broke. Anyway, speaking of what we're doing here. But anyway, I'm not going to go to Harbor Freight. I'm not going to go to Ace Hardware and buy a bolt for this thing. I actually ordered one from the same dealer that I bought the ball joints from. They have that part. Hopefully it's in stock, and I'll get it soon enough. It's a $5 part, guys. It's a $5 part. $10 shipping and handling. I probably should have went to my local Mazda dealer, and I wasn't thinking. I should have just gone to the... you know what? Sometimes I just get impulsive, and dealer's closed right now, but the internet's still open, so hey. So I cleaned up the hardware. I did confirm that the new ball joint does not come with these castle nuts. Those are sold separately, but they're reusable. They're not bad. They can be reused. We're going to use new cotter pins, though. I'm going to try to get some good heavy-duty, maybe some stainless steel ones or something. We will not be reusing the original ones. Not sure I trust them when they've been bent. I don't like to reuse cotter pins. It's just, bad juju. But anyway, so those parts are all on order. That'll be here soon. I just checked my package again for the suspension parts. Again, still delayed, probably indefinitely. We'll have to see what happens. So I may not have my dream come true where I can actually drive this car out of the garage and over to my local detailing shop before the snow flies. That's just not going to happen, guys, unfortunately. But yeah, cheap suspension parts, I almost did it myself. I almost went to, Parts Geek and ordered Mevotech suspension parts. I was going to rebuild it all, and then I started, inspecting the existing stuff I have, and it all seemed pretty good. Now the good news is, because these joints are still these are good joints. There is nothing wrong with these. They can be put back on the car. I mean, they're that good. There is a special test you can do. Like I said, you can use a torque wrench, I believe, and it's not much torque, but it has to be able to rotate, or it yields at a certain torque. I don't know what that number is, but if it passes that test, it's a good joint, and I do believe these will pass that test. And the grease inside is nice and clean, so there's literally nothing wrong with them. I think I've harped on that issue enough. Where was I going with this? So I was going to put Mevotech suspension parts on here until I read the reviews. Turns out their ball joints are, pot metal from China. So they could be anything. They could break under the. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. And the bushings may not be as good as these bushings are, even though these are as old as they are. So just wanted to point that out. If you're going to do wheel bearings, now's the time. But these bearings, they're fine. I believe on this car you replace the whole spindle. That would not surprise me. It would be cost effective to replace the whole spindle anyway, which is, they used to ship those out and rebuild them. Now I think they just make new ones. But this thing is going to be a nice car when I'm done. It's going to be real nice. I am so looking forward to it. But anyways, before we go, I want to take a look at. So I think you guys saw that I put the front fender. Those things, those splash guards. I put those onto the front. But last night I felt a little ambitious, and I put the rears on without even taking the wheels off. Actually was able to do it with one of these. I have this little neato screwdriver. Look at that. That was my grandfather's, actually. Found it in this toolbox. That was his. It's a number 1 and a number 2 Phillips. And I was able to get those Phillips head bolts in without pulling the wheels off. So, yeah. And I like the look. I mean, it's going to take some getting used to, but it does look nice. I mean, it looks proper. It looks like it belongs there. These are IL Motorsport splash guards. They're made in Germany, I believe. And all they make, turns out, are MX-5 Miata parts. IL Motorsports. Never heard of them, but hey. They sell these at Moss Miata. That's where I got them. And they're about $100 for the set. And that's not too bad. I mean, these are factory equivalent parts. These are molded from the factory. They probably took the factory fender splash guards, come on, fender flares, and they copied the mold or something. They figured out how to make them, but they're exact. Even this little dimple for this body crease here, or this little character line, these are just perfect fit. They can be painted. These are unpainted black, but they can be painted any color. And if it were me, I would just leave them black. If they start to fade and discolor, I'll paint them with a nice adhesion promoter and some black paint, trim paint. But I'm loving it. I can't wait. I am going to get the Dent Devil Dirt Wizard. What the how are these called? The Dent Dent Wizard. Dent Wizard. I think it's Dent Wizard. They come to your house and they have their special rods and they can work out. I got a little dent there. I got one on that door, and I got one in the trunk lid. I'm hoping they can do something with that. And I got another one. Maybe I'm not going to do anything with this one, but we do that before the car gets buffed and fluffed. That way, when they buff it, it's nice and even, and there's no weirdness. Yeah. So, onward and upward. I love this car, and I want this car to look as good as it does. You know, on my deathbed. No, really, I am not ever selling this car. I love it too much. I love driving it. And my girlfriend loves riding in it, so that's all that matters to me. I could have bought a motorcycle, but I bought this. I could have bought a very nice motorcycle, but I bought this. Don't regret my decision. No. No, I had too many close calls back in my motor scootering days, and that was enough. Enough. It's not my own driving or my own riding abilities that I'm worried about. It's other people's driving abilities that I'm more concerned about, and the fact that they don't seem to care about what's happening in front of them. But I had one close call in this car. One. It was actually right after I bought it. And what happened? So, that's a story for another day. That was something special. Oh my God, that was special. I'm not going to tell you that story right now, but I will tell you this one. So I was at Dunkin' Donuts, right? And they have this weird, really small parking lot. The drive-through line cube is behind you. It's really stupid. I'm pulling out, right? And this lady in an SUV, big black Escalade, pulls out. And I couldn't, at that point, there was nothing, nowhere for me to go. And she was actually she was within this far from my door. And I'm honking my horn. I didn't know it. I couldn't get her attention. She wasn't seeing me. And, it was terrifying. But that would have been a low speed impact, probably damaged the door, and I would have to buy a new door. But, that would suck. Anyway.